Hello, everyone. Welcome to Steven Shinder Reviews in video form, and happy May the 4th. And yes, I know this is yet another The Last Jedi video on the internet, but it won't be long, and I'm not one of those fans. But it's also not one of my favorite Star Wars things, personally. I think it's kind of middle of the road, it's okay, has amazing moments, but also messy moments. And I've been thinking again lately about this moment in particular that I've always thought could have been better. Now, The Last Jedi has been out for almost 6.5 years. I expect you've probably seen it, but do not watch this video if you have not seen Godzilla Minus One. It's one of my favorite recent films, and I highly recommend you watch it before continuing further. Bookmark this, favorite it, whatever. I really don't want anything to be spoiled for you by me talking about it. Okay, so to those familiar with both films, here we go. One of the moments of contention in The Last Jedi has been when, during the Battle of Crate, the First Order has these cannons that are essentially miniaturized Death Star tech. The resistance soldiers are in these dinky, rickety old ships trying to beat these guys. Finn believes he can help the resistance by crashing his own ship into the cannon. Then Rose swoops in, crashes her ship into his to keep him from sacrificing himself. It's very dangerous, and they're both on the ground. Finn asks, "Why did you stop me?" Rose says, "I saved you, dummy." Then she has this line that I think is profound, actually, but maybe not put in the best place. She says, "That's how we're gonna win, not fighting what we hate, saving what we love." I also find the kiss a bit misplaced here, to be honest, but I don't know. Maybe in the heat of the battle, maybe that's kind of a thing. But regarding the line, I know people roll their eyes at it because it's Star Wars. But I really do think this idea of making your goal to save what you love rather than giving in to hate and fighting because of hate, letting all your fighting against the enemy be purely driven by hate, is a message that really is at the core of Star Wars. Focus on the love, not on the hate. Problem is, the sequence this message is placed in feels really clunky to me. I've heard the complaint that we see Holdo herself get to make a heroic sacrifice, and it seems like that's the way to go, but then Rose keeps Finn from trying to do the same thing. I do understand how even reasonable people might be rubbed the wrong way by these sequences being in the same movie and not being too far apart from each other. Even without the earlier scene, the cadence of this sequence has always annoyed me. No, I do not think Finn dying here would have been the way to go, but I do wish he could have accomplished another heroic moment here. Over time, I thought of this idea of what he could have done that would have been such an amazing heroic feat without him having to die. What if, instead of dying, while crashing into the cannon, Finn's ship had an ejector seat? And he had ejected himself, allowing the ship to crash into the cannon without giving away his life. We saw Finn survive via ejector seat not too long before in The Force Awakens when he and Poe were crash landing on Jakku. I'm sure I can hear some fans saying, well, these ships are so old and ejector seats might not work, or the ship wouldn't be enough to destroy the cannon if it crashed into it. I'm sure I've seen these type of arguments, like somewhere online at some point. But like, this could have been written so that these other things could have been possible. Just because you know the film as it is doesn't mean what could have been done would have been impossible. You could have written in sturdier ships, make up some science about how crashing it into the cannon would have been enough. It's Star Wars, after all. Maybe don't put Finn and Rose in a position where people wonder why the walkers can't just shoot at them if they're on the ground. And with the revision, you'd still have the obstacle of the walkers going against the resistance base, and Luke coming in with his heroic moment. So, yeah, I rewrote the canon sequence in my head, sat on this idea for a while, And then I essentially saw this sequence play out right before my eyes in Godzilla minus one. This is a film that also displays this message of save what you love, but in a more effective way, consistently throughout, in my opinion. In that film, you have a former kamikaze pilot, Shikishima, who feels ashamed because he didn't sacrifice his life to help the people. And people shame him as well for not laying down his life, as it's seen as his duty. But the night before the people enact their plan to take down Godzilla, engineer Kenji Noda, who devised the plan, suggests people spend time with their loved ones. And what he says next is one of my favorite parts of the movie. Translated into English, and I'm getting this from IMDb, hoping that they got it precisely, but he says, come to think of it, this country has treated life far too cheaply. Poorly armored tanks, poor supply chains, resulting in half of all deaths from starvation and disease. Fighter planes built without ejection seats, and finally kamikaze and suicide attacks. That's why this time I'd take pride in a citizen led effort that sacrifices no lives at all. This next battle is not one waged to the death, but a battle to live for the future. That is the heart of the film right there. It was a bit predictable that Shikishima would end up surviving via ejector seat while taking down Godzilla, but it still felt like a triumphant moment seeing the plane crash into the face of the monster, but also seeing that Shikishima survived for sure. Like, he didn't have to lose his life in this heroic act. People realize the value of lives in this movie. There can be a way to save others without ending your own life. In The Last Jedi, you could have given Finn a moment where he's keen on sacrificing himself, following Holdo's example, and then Rose reminds him of the ejector seat on the comms. Holdo's way is not the only way, could be the takeaway. After the ship, with no life on it, crashes into and destroys a cannon, you could have Rose swoop in and pick Finn up and out of the chair and onto the ship in a way that feels like it works. I haven't I'm not really sure the best visual way to do that, but I'm sure like there could have been a way to do that. You could have Finn say, "He saved me," and Rose saying, "This is how we're gonna win: not fighting what we hate, saving what we love." Granted, you do have Luke dying still while saving people he loved, but I don't know. That still works for me for some reason. Whereas the ship crash sequence felt more clunky and not as emotional to me. Would it have been so bad to have given Finn this fist pump moment in this battle? I think it would have smoothed things out a bit more, for me anyway. Maybe Luke and Holdo, being the old guard, lay down their lives so the future generations can thrive. I don't know. I'm sure there are holes to be poked in that particular idea, but yeah, that's how I'd revise this particular sequence. Now, the wrinkle in all this is if The Last Jedi had done this, maybe it would have felt more predictable and expected to happen in Godzilla minus one to the audiences who overlap between the franchises. But that moment in minus one, like I said, still works, despite me feeling like it would probably happen. I predicted it, but I still felt really satisfied with it. It might have been a nice thing to see enacted in The Last Jedi. That's my 2 cents. This will probably be the only Last Jedi video I ever make for the channel, or I could change my mind. I don't know. It's just something I was reminded of recently thanks to a recent film. I've heard valid criticisms of The Last Jedi, but also some stupid criticisms. And either way, it's been almost 6.5 years since the film came out. So I really hope that we see people move on from dwelling on it too much. There are other movies out there, people. Come on. Anyway, may the force be with you. See you around.